And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who really likes the name Valentine. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And boy, is it ever beautiful here on Milleronia today. There's so much to tell you. And what better day? And by the way, we're recording this on Valentine's Day. And on Milleronia, let's just say we call it, first of all, Millertine's Day. And there's a reason for that. We have such a big festival for it. And everyone can't wait to give something to their loved one on Millertine Day. And which is a big, big holiday here. It didn't used to be so big. Some people didn't want to celebrate it. But, well, they saw a volcano shortly after that, and then everyone suddenly said, what a great holiday. But I'll tell you more about that later. Gee, it's just beautiful here today. And, of course, that was the Fast Eddie Clark Orchestra and the Eileen Miller Dancers, featuring boy tenor Mike Lucking, asking the musical question, if I do something nice every day to show my wife that I care for her, do I still have to buy her something on Valentine's Day? Yes. That's first of all, Mike, just yes. Okay? Let's begin and end with yes. You have to buy her something on Valentine's Day. Now, it doesn't matter whether you live in a little bungalow cabin that's falling apart or whether she's the Queen of England or Cleopatra. Nothing matters. Up or down, yes, yes. You loved each other, you got married, and now nothing matters because every holiday, every day, for the rest of your lives, yes. And I'll tell you why later again. And by the way, Fast Eddie Clark is someone Colonel Jeff admires very much. He just passed on, and he was the lead guitarist for the band Motorhead. So, good luck, Eddie. And thanks for bringing that up, Colonel. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. That's right. Oh, I love this part. I love the joke of the week because I love passing on a good joke, sometimes even a great joke, to all of you. And my instructions, my request, my orders are always the same. If you like it, pass it on to your family or friends or loved ones. And the Colonel and I both like this one today. It's, a lady is walking through a pet store. She's not normally the one to do things like that, but she's a nice pet store, and she walks in, and sure enough, there's a parrot sitting there on the counter, a beautiful parrot, and just sitting on a bar on the counter there, and she says, well, what? And she glances around. There's a sign that says $10 for this parrot or best offer. Again, she's never done this, and she said, well, good Lord, I have no interest really in this, but it's a beautiful parrot, and $10 is a bargain price. They're usually much, much more. And the owner of the store comes up, may I help you, ma'am? And she says, well, yes, frankly, I didn't know this was going to happen, but that's a beautiful parrot. And why, if I may ask, why is it only $10? And the owner says, well, I'll be honest, ma'am. This parrot used to be in a brothel. He worked for years in a brothel, and, well, he took in some things. Sometimes he says things that aren't that nice or a little dirty. And she says, well, I don't want that. I don't need dirty things in the house with the kids and my husband, but all right. And she buys it just like that. She buys it. Doesn't even handle with the guy. Just here's $10 and that's that. She goes home. The bird's in a cage that the man in the store gave her, and she puts the cage on the counter in her kitchen and smiles at the parrot and says, how do you like that? this is our parrot now. This is your home." And the parrot immediately just says, looks around the kitchen and just says, and just says, "Wow, it's good you finally cleaned this dump up. But look at the lady of the house. She's beautiful." And the woman, laughs a little, and she says, "Well, that may be a little tart, but he was sweet to call me beautiful." And she laughs and starts cleaning up. And then, sure enough, her daughters come home from school, and the parrot immediately, "Wow, yeah, 2 new girls. Place will be jumping tonight." And the girls kind of laugh, and the mother laughs, and they said, "What is this?" "Well, I got a parrot. This is our parrot today." And and then they laugh again. And then door opens again, and her husband comes in after a day's work, and the parrot says, "Hi, Jim." That's a pretty good one, isn't it? Colonel Jeff and I got a good laugh out of that. It's just, as jokes sometimes are, it's nice and silly and fun all along the way, but it's great. Everything else is and then, but apparently they've seen each other so often in the past, I guess at the brothel, that he just, "Hi, Jim." Anyway, I hope you like that one. And if you do, as ever, please pass it along. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. Oh boy, that music, it just really touched me again. Wonderful music we have here. All due to Colonel Jeff, by the way, finding the right things. And this is a great one. The name is Two Valentines. And it is actually 2 separate poems that are here as one. They're called Two Valentines by Eugene Field. And oh, what a wonderful poet he was. He was, an American, and he's an American writer from St. Louis. He lived from 1850 to 1895, and he was best known for his children's poetry. That's how he got his nickname, the Children's Poet. As I said, this is 2 poems, but by the way, here's kind of a neat thing. His most famous poem is Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod. And when Colonel Jeff said to me, "Do you know that one?" I said, "I'm guessing that most of you just, oh, sure, how do you like that? We can blink and a nod." And, I know that. And then I realized, he said, "Well, do you know what it's about?" And I said, "No, I have no idea. I've never read it. I heard it. But I know the name. Don't you folks? I mean, don't we all know that name?" And in fact, I said to the Colonel, "You know what? If you don't mind, make a little mark next to that. And let's read that one another time." But this is a great place to start with Eugene Field, called Two Valentines. And here's the first one, which is titled, To Mistress Barbara. There were 3 cavaliers, all handsome and true. On Valentine's Day came a maiden to woo. And quoth to your mother, "Good morrow, my dear. We came with some songs for your daughter to hear." Your mother replied, "I'll be pleased to convey to my daughter what things you may sing or may say." Then the first cavalier sung, "My pretty red rose, I'll love you, and court you some day, I suppose." And the next cavalier sung, with make-believe tears, I've loved you these many long years." But the third cavalier, with the brown bushy head, and the pretty blue jacket and necktie of red, he drew himself up with a resolute air, and he warbled, "Oh, maiden surpassingly fair, I've loved you long years, and I love you today, and if you will let me, I'll love you for aye. I, the third cavalier, sang this ditty to you in my necktie of red and my jacket of blue. I'm sure you'll prefer the song that was mine and smile your approval on your Valentine. Isn't that lovely? And you know what? I bet she will. I'll bet she picked him. Who, remember, is I. That's nice. He's narrating the poem, but I think she'd pick him. Heck, I'd pick him. And I'm not even interested. But that's a nice poem. And here's the second part of this, another poem called To a Baby Boy. Who I am I shall not say, but I send you this bouquet. With this query, baby mine, will you be my Valentine? See these roses blushing blue, very like your eyes of hue, while these violets are the red of your cheeks, it can be said, ne'er before was babe like you. And I think it is quite true, no one e'er before today sent so wondrous a bouquet as these posies aforesaid, roses blue and violets red. Sweet, repay me sweets for sweets, 'tis your lover who entreats. Smile upon me, baby mine, be my little Valentine. Isn't that nice? And I'm glad he put those two poems together. And that's something, it's very important because that's the basis, by the way, of this holiday, of Valentine's Day. And once again, I'll tell you more about that later. That brings me to my third favorite part of the show. Triple M, the magic movie moment. Still the greatest piano note at the end of any piece. Da, 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 da. Well, folks, this is a terrific movie from 1998 called Shakespeare in Love. It's a wonderful movie. It's very good, starring Gwyneth Paltrow, Ralph Fiennes. I never know how to pronounce that name. Not that it comes up a lot, but I don't know. It's spelled Ralph, isn't it? That's fine with me. He does what he wants. I like the guy. I mean, I don't know him, but I think he's a terrific actor. But Ralph Fiennes, okay. And, by the way, Dame Judi Dench is in this. It's got such a... And the rest of the cast is so wonderful. Plus, the movie, by the way, looks like Shakespeare's day. It's beautifully shot. The art direction is wonderful. And the streets and the theaters and the homes look just terrific. Even the saloons they would hang out in, you'd think, you know what, I'd like to be there and pound that gigantic mug on the table. They drank wine in those days. Well, I guess a lot of people drink it today, but boy, oh boy, those gigantic things. It looked like a half a gallon of wine in each big, gigantic glass. Anyway, this is a fine movie, a terrific movie, Shakespeare in Love. What a good idea. And it's from, I think I mentioned, 1998. And what I love most about this movie and the magic movie moment in it for me, for you, today, is that it's a wonderful love story. And it has that great dramatic irony that you and I know they're in love long before they do. I love when it's right to do that. You and I, the whole audience watching the movie, knows they're in love. You want to say, "Oh, you're in love." Just look at her. Come on, and just look at him, and she's starting to love him, and he's starting to love her. But folks, throughout the story, and it's a terrific story, and it's written and acted so well. And by the way, Judi Dench plays a great Queen Elizabeth. She plays her so smart and in charge, a great leader. Sees through everyone and just always casts an eye. She's not shy to tell a nobleman he's an idiot, but in a very delicate way, and it's so interesting. Everyone is terrific in this, but folks, I was so happy that I knew they were in love long before they do. And I loved watching it along the way, thinking, oh, come on, come on, come on. Just kiss her. And that's what I think is a great magic movie moment for today. If you haven't seen Shakespeare in Love, see it. You're going to be very happy you did. And you're going to love it. And you're going to love seeing them fall for each other just the way I did. And I'll bet it was the same with you and me, too. Other people knew we were in love with our spouses long before we did. It's a great part of romance, you know. And, by the way, I needed to buy my wife a gift. And as I mentioned, well, she's running the dancers today, Eileen Miller, and is a great writer, producer in comedy. And, I never know what to get. I'm not a great gift getter. I try to be and I want to be, but I'm not. I don't think most men, most husbands are. I think we all look the same. Well, in my case, it was the day before Valentine's Day. And, how do you get a nice gift for someone? There's a jewelry store back on the mainland near our house, a couple of miles away. And, it's been advertised on TV for the last 6 months or a year. And I kept thinking, I've never been in there. And I've passed it 1,000 times. And I just always thought, one of these days, I guess I got to go in there, I guess. I don't know exactly when. Men are not big go-in-store people. Very few men are walking with their friends. Say, hey, Bill, here's a jewelry store. Let's see what kind of watches they have. It just doesn't come up a lot. But I did on this day, on the day before Valentine's Day, at about 4 p.m, I said, you know what? I'm going to head out and get some stuff. My wife, I remember, said to me, oh, yeah, where are you going? And I said, well, I don't think that's your business. How is that your business? And so I smiled, and she just, walked out of the room and muttered something that was, no, I mean, you want to go out and get something. So I went to this store, and folks, it was, number one, you park in the back, and that's fine. And it looks like a good-looking place. Looks like kind of a fancy place. It's not so big. It was about 40 feet long and about 15 feet wide. And the door is opened by a security guard, which tells you something, doesn't it? I don't know exactly what, but he's got a uniform on, and he was packing. He had a pistol, and it was not a light one. This was he wasn't kidding around, and neither was that gun. And so I just, he came to the door, and I smiled and kind of waved, and it was kind of a funny moment, too, because he didn't open it right away. He waited about 4 or 5 seconds looking at me, which is all right. Oh, that's okay with me, I think. I mean, is everyone that dangerous to this guy? I guess they are. Maybe they gave him the job because that's what he wears normally, a uniform and a big gun. But he opened the door. I said, oh, thank you. And he kind of motioned with his finger into the store. Again, that's all right, too. You want to say, take it easy. I'm not going to pull anything here. But then the woman, I think one of the owners came in, and she was very lovely. Let's see, I guess she was 40, 45 years old. And she said, I'll just be honest. Everything I told her that, she said, well, what are you here to get? And I wanted to say something. I felt like saying something. Well, it's the day before Valentine's Day. What do you think I want to get? What does every man want to get who walks in here? Haven't you noticed I've got the husband's look about me? All husbands have the same look a day or two before a holiday. And they really do. It's that confused and, well, just frightened look. We're just scared to pieces. And, all right, so she took me around to some of the cases there. They didn't have that much stuff, but plenty of stuff, I guess. I don't know places like that. And everything she took out looked a little, frankly, big, and looked like something that, older ladies might like more, that has a lot of pieces in it, and they're all big and shiny and some kind of blue, and but wherever they were, a couple of pieces caught my eye, nothing really, but I said, can I see that one? Would you take that out, please? And she took it as she would take one of them out, and I'd say, how much is that? And she said, 27. And I said, and I didn't really know exactly what she meant. I said, excuse me, 27? 27,000, you mean? And she said, yes, 27,000. And I said, I remember leaning in and saying, are we talking about dollars here, by the way, or is this lira like 100 years ago? $27,000 this thing is. Oh, all right. Well, that's terrific. First of all, let me have 4 of them, but I was just kidding, of course. I mean, that's a lot of money, isn't it? I mean, is it just me, or I think that's a lot of money. $27,000 for a thing? And it's for Valentine's Day. I mean, it's a good thing to have. Get someone you love a thing on Valentine's Day. I know a box of chocolates is supposed to be the way to go, but that's not really what your wife wants. And in any case, she showed me a couple more things. And folks, she showed me a total of like 4 things. And they were all over $24,000. And I mean, the one was a $24,500. Another one was $26,000. And I just said, can you do me a favor? Can we sort of stop here? That's more than I want to spend. That's way more than I want to spend. In fact, it's on a different planet. So can we, if my wife's birthday is in a few weeks, maybe I'll come back then. And she'd say, well, but we're here now. And I just said, yeah, you know what? And she had a couple of things that were more like $2,500 or $3,000. And that's still, to me, I don't know, that's still too much, isn't it? And these were small things. I mean, very small things. You needed one of those jeweler's eyepieces, a jeweler's loop. Just if she were wearing that around her neck, she'd have to hand the jeweler's loop out to everyone who said hello to her just to see the thing. And that was $2,200. But, and I said, and I didn't, no, thank you. I took her card. Yeah, she said, come back for your wife's birthday. And I said, okay. But I knew walking out, I'm not coming back. I think that's way too much money. I think that's a crazy amount of money to spend on anything, any stuff like that. A birthday, I think that's a lot of money. And as I walked past the guard, he was getting ready. He was sort of stiffening up at attention, kind of. It was only 8 feet away, but, as he opened the door, he said, he nodded and smiled, and I just said to him, anybody ever buy anything in here? They must. I mean, the place is open, right? I mean, they must sell something. And he was I think he was still just giving me the once over just to see if he had to kill me. But I walked out then, all right, and then I said, well, that's crazy. I went home and I called home to my wife and just said, you need me to get anything from the market and anything for dinner, anything you want at all? And she said, no, thanks. And so I went home. The next day was the day before Valentine's Day. So yes, forgive me, just to be clear, that was 2 days before Valentine's Day that I went to the Sheiks of Oil jewelry store. And then the next day, the day before Valentine's Day, I said, well, there's a mall near us and it has a Bloomingdale's and a Macy's and the truth is I didn't want to get flowers. And my wife, God bless her, isn't crazy about flowers. And it's not like she likes them, but it's more like sort of the way guys look at them. You look at them once and then just say, yeah, and so what? What do you want me to do? But I went to Bloomingdale's, and it was a terrific time. It was only about, the whole process only took 25, 30 minutes, and I went right to the jewelry department, and I asked someone in there, where's the jewelry department, please? And she told me. By the way, the place was filled with women. I'm just thought it was interesting. I told Colonel Jeff that all the employees and all the customers I saw there, every single one, with no exception, was a woman. And I said, well, again, it's fine with me, but it's just interesting. You didn't see a man, except for me. I walked there, and I felt like an astronaut who had landed on planet Amazon from a movie in the 50s, where it's just you and Leslie Nielsen and Don Adams, and you're on the planet, well, Womanonia, but it's, or Venus. I think there were a couple of good ones on Venus, and good luck, God bless them all. They were just, young actors, and the women were lovely. So the movie is made in, say, 1953, and all the women are, well, tall and lovely. They, have that Julie Newmar height and build, which is a good height and build for me and for Colonel Jeff. But they're blonde, and they're wearing the Amazonian outfits, which we're not shy. And you know what? So I went. I felt a little like that in Bloom, but it's Bloomingdale's. Come on! So I went to the jewelry department. It was empty, and a very nice young woman behind the counter said, "May I help you?" I said, "Yes, I'd like to get something for my wife." And I remember she said, "For Valentine's Day?" And which is one of those things you want to look behind you to see if she was saying that to anyone else. Of course it's for Valentine's Day. Have you seen a man in here all day who didn't have the same look as me? It's the same look I mentioned, that, they're confused and frightened. And just a guy alone in a place he shouldn't be. Why should we be there? All right. Well, yes. So yes. And she was laughing, and I said, just Valentine's Day, please, and just help me out. And she was taking me through just around the counters there. They were sort of in a squared circle, you might call it. Or is that just the wrestling ring nickname? But she took me around, and she was saying a lot of the things from the brochures, meaning she was, this is very popular with the ladies, and they think that, and I interrupted, and I said to her, do me a favor. You're doing great, and I need your help, but it doesn't bother me. I don't care what's popular with the other women. I don't care what the store sells. I don't care what they like. I want you to help me. Find me something you like. And when I mentioned a price I wanted to pay, and I said, and she did. She took me around, and there were two other women there. Another saleswoman behind the counter, and talking to a young woman in the customer position. They said, we found some stuff. We found a little bracelet section there, and she showed me a few of these things, and I said, you know what? That looks pretty good. I said, do you like that? And she said, well, there are many different ways to. Don't do that again. Do you like it? And she smiled and said yes. And the other two women there, the other customer and the other saleswoman, just both looked over at me and smiled and nodded and said, those are very nice. And I said, thank you. Look at that. 3 women in an empty store with no men just helped me out. And so the woman my saleswoman wrapped them in a nice box with a ribbon. She didn't wrap them, by the way. I had to go to the 3rd floor to the wrapping section, which is fine with me. There's nothing wrong with that. But I felt, well, how do you like that? That only took 20 or 22 minutes. I place everything in sort of the length of a sitcom. But, she said she was very nice. I paid for it. And then I went up to the 3rd floor and got them wrapped. And she said, well, these are some of the, pointed to the wall there. These are some of the Valentine's Day wrappers. And I said, well, can I have that one instead? Can I have number 7 instead? Looked a little more, well, a little fancier, a little more colorful. And she said, yes, sure. And she wrapped it in that. And then I went to get a card. They had a card section just outside, just a few feet outside the wrapping section. And I don't know what I'm looking at. The same thing. It's like they send you to a tool section in a store because you're a guy. And the other woman said, would you like me to help? Would you like? I said, yes, please. And she came over and she found one because I picked one initially alone that she thought was. I went over to her and to the second woman. I just said, is this good? Will my wife like this for Valentine's Day? And she was very sweet because she paused for about 4 seconds, which is a long time. And trying to find the delicate way to say, and I just laughed. And I just said, no, huh? And she just shook her head with a sad smile. Just, no, it's not. This is something for a man or something, but it's not for the woman you love. And this is your wife. And yes. And she said, well, you should get. So she took me out and I got a nice card. In the same section, there's a Valentine's section. It's not that they're fancy, but they say, hi, love you. And they're red and white. Maybe it's a bright color holiday. Maybe that's what I was looking for. But I did that. And she said, you want to fill it out here? And I said, well, no, not in front of you. Not in front of them. No, I'm going to take this home and think about it. And I did. And folks, I was so happy. The whole process again took about 29 and a half minutes. Now that's a gift to me. I don't need anything for Valentine's Day. I don't think men do. I don't think men get anything. But that's what I got. I got a 29-minute stroll or sprint through Bloomingdale's. Boy, folks, that was great. And then I didn't just stroll through the store going out. I had a big grin on my face, and the store was filled with women and nodding and smiling because they thought I was so happy, and they saw I had the little Bloomingdale's bag that says little brown bag on it. I said, wow, this is great. This is a heck of a store. But folks, it made me think again, and I know I've mentioned this. It's important to know this. There's a reason we should get something nice on Valentine's Day. And it's a good reason. It's an important reason. And I don't think we know, and maybe you don't know, the whole point of Valentine's Day and what it is. This was, and I wanted to pass this along, this was a real man, a priest in Italy in the 3rd century, so it's still the Roman Empire, and he became greatly loved and popular. He was very, very well known for hundreds of miles in each direction, and his name was Valentine, and technically the name was Valentinus, but it comes to Valentine, and he married young Christians in secret ceremonies because, remember, this was the end of the Roman Empire. It was still illegal to be a Christian, and it was still illegal. Most of the grooms were Roman soldiers. And, well, the Roman Empire didn't want their soldiers. You know how things like that are in empires. They didn't want them to do anything. And Valentine did it. They came from, many, many miles away, a young man and a young woman. And, as I said, being Christian was illegal. But one of them was, or sometimes both of them were, or sometimes Valentine would convert, say, the soldier, and so they were both the same thing. And they weren't allowed to be married, so he would get them, and sometimes they would do it in the middle of the night, and sometimes he would secret them away even into a barn where they could do it there with all the traditional ceremonies. And they loved it. They loved it very much, and eventually the Roman officials found out he was doing this. He was very well known. And once Rome found out and didn't want you to do something, well, they were pretty clear on ways to stop you from doing it. In his case, they put him in jail for a long time. and many years, and he became friends with the jailer and the jailer's daughter. And he would write letters to the jailer's daughter. And they really never saw each other, just once or twice. But that's another case of, you want to say, I know you're in love before you do. And he, for his last letter to her, he said, with all my heart, Valentine. And the Romans took him out, and, well, they executed him. And do you know when they did that? February 14th, what we call Valentine's Day. That was his execution in the year 271 AD. And eventually one pope took his name, Valentinus, when he became pope. And then they made him a saint. So you see, today, and it is today, we're recording this on, well, February 14th. And it's not really Valentine's Day. It's what you may have heard, Saint Valentine's Day. And it's a wonderful time. It doesn't matter what your religion is, but it's a wonderful time to remember and to say, with a gift and a card and a nice sentiment written on it, you know what? Will you be my Valentine? And that's what it really means. And I did that. And, well, my wife is someplace else here on, well, right, as I mentioned, on Milleronia and in stately Miller Manor on Milleronia. And after the show, though, I'm going to take the gift up to her because I put it in her office on her desk. But she hasn't been down yet. I'm going to take it up and give it to her. And then Colonel Jeff, of course, is going to do what we always do after the show, go to a strip club. No, I'm just being silly. The dogs looked up when I said that, though. In any case, do something like that for yourselves. If it's after Valentine's Day, if you didn't get something, and yeah, I'm talking to the fellows here, because you may get gifts from your wife sometime or two, but it's really a day for, I think, the husband, the man, to say to his wife, will you be my Valentine, with something nice? Do that. And ladies, yes, do that for your husband too. But I think the main thing is, fellas, go do the right thing and get a decent gift and make out a nice card and ask her to be your Valentine. You know that the way we both know the same things. Homer is Homer and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who is your Valentine, folks, the game's over and you've won. Please remember that and enjoy it, and we'll see you here next time.